After an incredibly exciting week of the NFL season, we are officially a little over a quarter of the way through of the year. So we are going to be doing a two-round mock draft special for you guys. We've been doing a lot of one-rounders, but we're going to get to talk about some new players that I've been dying to talk about that I just don't really think are first-round caliber. But I'm really excited about this one. Don't want to waste any more of your guys' time. But before we get into it, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. For those of you that want my thoughts on all of these prospects in more depth, as well as over 450 other prospects, be sure to check out the link down below. I've got my full in-depth draft guide. Shoot me a message on my Twitter if you guys want the access to that as well. But yeah, let's get right into it. A new team with the number one overall pick, a team that I think very realistically could be picking there. It's the New England Patriots. They made the decision now to go with Drake May. I think it's a disaster of a decision. I get Jacoby Brissett's been bad, but you look at this team, no offensive line, no weapons, no offensive coaching to kind of alleviate some of the pressure off of him. And it sucks that you're at the number one spot. I do think whoever has number one, there's a very good realistic chance that this could be a trade back spot. I just don't really think there's a lot on the table here for New England. I am going to go with Travis Hunter, though. I think he is the clear-cut number one player in this draft class, an insane athlete that can play both sides of the football at an elite level. New England needs a number two corner. New England needs a number one corner. I like Gonzalez. I think Hunter would be the number one there, but they also need a number one receiver. So you could find ways to kind of mix him in on both sides of the football. New England has holes everywhere. We're doing a two-rounder. I fully intend to take an offensive tackle later on, but I'm going to take Travis Hunter at number one. And number two, the Cincinnati Bengals, a team that nobody expected to be this low, this late into the season. But their defense has just been a disaster. They're not really generating any sort of pass rush outside of Trey Hendrickson. I think the secondary has also been very disappointing. Cam Taylor-Britt has not been good. Daxton Hill is now out for this team as well. So there are some concerns in the secondary, but I think you got to start up front with this team. And we're taking Mason Graham. I've made this pick multiple weeks in a row now, and I really don't see a reason to change it. He's a freak athlete on the interior of the defensive line, really good pass rusher, can stuff the run a little bit as well. I love what he would provide to this Cincinnati defensive front. At number three, we got the Cleveland Browns. I do think this is going to be the first quarterback off the board ultimately. I mean, just look at how bad Deshaun Watson has been up to this point in the season. He's been by far the worst starting quarterback in the league. You've got to go get an answer to this quarterback solution. And we're going to go with who I have as QB1 right now. That is Cam Ward. I love what I've seen from him. The composure in the pocket has been the big development for me. There were a lot of times last year it felt like he panics, made bad decisions, but just the confidence that he plays the position with. He's very smart. He's got a great arm. The one thing you want to see him get cleaned up is throwing crossbody off his back foot. Too many interceptions that got to get cleaned up. But I think Cam Ward has the best sample size right now of the four quarterbacks. You could argue Shedeur Sanders is up there, but I like Cam Ward a little bit more than I like Sanders at this point. At number four, we got the Los Angeles Rams, and we're going to take who I think is probably the pound-for-pound best player in the class. That is Will Johnson. Has 2 pick sixes this year, I believe, for Michigan. He's the best corner in this class and maybe the best corner I have ever studied. He's big, he's long, he's physical. He moves incredibly well for the position. There's a lot to really love about Will Johnson. And this is a Rams team that the secondary has been a major concern for them really all season long. So we're just going to take the guy that I think gives you the best chance. They got a lot of holes on the defensive side of the ball. They addressed the D-line. I think now you go secondary, and I don't think it gets any better than Will Johnson. At number 5, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars, another team that I think could definitely go secondary. Joe Flacco's throwing for 300 yards on him. I'm lower on Benjamin Morrison than the consensus. I just don't see him as a top 10 draft pick. I like Savon Ravel a little bit more, but with the injury, I just don't see him going this high. The issue you still have with Jacksonville, while it's been better the last 2 weeks, the tackle position, still a little bit up in the air. You got to get a long-term solution at the left tackle, and I love Will Campbell out of LSU. I think he is my favorite tackle prospect in this class by a lot, to be completely honest with you. He's got incredible length. He's really active with his hands and batting away defenders. I love what he brings to this Jacksonville team. He's great in pass protection. He's not a great run blocker up to this point, but the Jaguars can't run the ball anyways. I'm going to take Will Campbell. I think he is the best tackle in this draft class. And number 6, we got the Carolina Panthers. Now, I really want to go quarterback here. Maybe they get lucky at quarterback falls to them in the second round, but I think you got to go defense. Back-to-back weeks, this team can't generate any pressure. They really have questions on the back end as well, but up front, you don't have a true standout number one edge rusher. And James Pierce is my number one edge. I'm not going to go that direction today. I'm not going to go Mykel Williams. I'm not going to Abdul Carter. I'm going to go with Nick Scorton. Seems to really be coming into his own. Had an incredible game against Missouri this past weekend, and he's just a freak athlete. He's the youngest player in this draft class as well. He's 6'5", 280 pounds, quick first step. He's got power. He's got a really nasty spin move. Really love this for the Carolina Panthers, a team that I think desperately needs to look into investing on this defensive line. At number 7, the Tennessee Titans, similar to Cleveland. I think you got a bottom 3 quarterback room in the league right now, and you got to get a little bit of upside. This is a team that I don't really think is in a position to take best quarterback available. I think the Titans would be willing to take a shot here, and I am going to take Jalen Milroe for the second straight week. Milroe, I do think, gives you a little bit more upside at the quarterback position because his ceiling is through the roof. You're in a division with C.J. Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, who I haven't given up on yet. You're going to need some firepower here, and I don't think anyone's denying that Jalen Milroe has the highest ceiling of any of the quarterbacks in this draft class. He's got great size. He's got a cannon for an arm. He's the most athletic quarterback in this class by a mile. Milroe brings you some stuff that you feel really good about, and for a Titans team, I just think they're looking for more consistency at the quarterback position. Will Levis hasn't been that for them. I think Jalen Milroe can, though. At number 8, the Miami Dolphins, I think they've got to go tackle. I know everyone wants to go quarterback. Not there yet. I think Kelvin Banks being on the board, this is great value. He's had a really productive season for Texas up to this point. And you drafted Patrick Paul last year. I still see Patrick Paul as way more of a project player than most. He had a lot of concerns with his run blocking. He's not super athletic. Kelvin Banks, I think, is kind of the answer that you're looking for. Teron Armstead can't stay healthy. Even if you decide to move Kelvin Banks to the right tackle position, I think you need to go with a tackle here if you're Miami. So I'm going to take Kelvin Banks at number 8. At number 9, we got the New York Jets. Very interesting team to draft for. I think they could look for a pass rusher. You really have all of them on the board here. But it does look like the quarterback room is you're starting to lose a little bit of faith in the quarterback room right now. You look at this room, Aaron Rodgers is in his 40s, hasn't been Aaron Rodgers, granted. I still think there's a potential there. You're going to have a new head coach. You might have a new general manager. I think you want to get your guy for the future that maybe you could sit for a year or two and kind of let develop. If we'll see kind of what the off-field stuff is, but I'm taking Shadur Sanders. Sanders is kind of made for these primetime moments. He's got that it factor about him at the quarterback position. He plays with a level of confidence, a level of swagger that you just don't see from a lot of quarterbacks. And when the games matter, he shows up. He's a big-time performer. He's incredibly accurate with the football. The mechanics are still a little inconsistent, but he is my number 2 quarterback in this draft class, and I think he's a top 10 player overall. At number 10, the Arizona Cardinals, another team that could go with an edge rusher. You've gotten good production from Dennis Gardeck. I do like what you've gotten up front from you're getting Darius Robinson back. Like I said, you got good stuff from Gardeck. I think this team has to go with an interior defender. Corner is in play. I'm not ready to write off their cornerback room, but Deion Walker just feels like a perfect player for what Arizona is kind of looking for right now. You're looking for a penetrator up front, a guy that's going to be a really solid long-term answer for you on the interior defensive line. And I kind of think that's what you're going to be getting from Deion Walker. He is 6'6", 350 pounds, but he's not a nose tackle. He is a 3-tech through and through, excellent athlete, and I love the guy. I think he's going to be a great player. I've got him at number 10. At number 11, it's the Vegas Raiders, and 3 quarterbacks already come off the board in the top 10. look, I know a lot of people are going to say this isn't happening. I'm a lot higher on this quarterback class than most people are. I'm not writing it off. I do think that it's a very real possibility, especially with some of these teams. I do think quarterback is needed around the league. Vegas is a team that desperately needs a quarterback. They benched Gardner Minshew. Aiden O'Connell is not the answer. We're going to take Carson Beck. I think Carson Beck and Shadur Sanders are probably the two most NFL-ready quarterbacks. I lean Beck in terms of like day one impact because he's accurate with the football. He's a great decision maker, goes through his reads really well. And outside of the Alabama game, you really can't find a lot of weaknesses on his tape. I think he's going to be a really, really good quarterback at the NFL level. Vegas needs to make a move, and we're going to take him at number 11. At number 12, we got the New Orleans Saints. You kind of saw it in the game on Monday night. Their pass rush just isn't really getting there up front. And you got Chase Young, who's been okay. He's on a one-year deal. Cam Jordan, he's getting up there in age. You got to get a long-term solution off the edge. And I'm going to go with James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee. Kind of had his best game of the year against Arkansas. I think a lot of people are too quick to write the guy off because the sack numbers haven't been off the charts like they were last year. This guy is generating pressure at an elite level. I want to say he's got like a 15% pass rush win rate. It's not too shabby for an SEC edge rusher. He's generating pressure. His explosiveness and pass rush upside off the edge is truly remarkable. And for a Saints team, I don't really think they have a lot of explosiveness off the edge or really anywhere on their defensive line. This is also a team that's done a pretty good job drafting Tennessee players in the past, Alvin Kamara as one of those guys. I'm going to take James Pierce here to be my long-term number one edge. At number 13, my Indianapolis Colts. It shows every single week on tape. The cornerback room is a complete and utter disaster. Take a guy that I think is going to be the number one corner right away in Benjamin Morrison. Great size. He's a really good athlete, and I've said it time and time again. He's the only cornerback that I've actually seen give fits to Marvin Harrison Jr., at least at the collegiate level. Morrison's got really good ball skills, good quickness of the football, and you get to keep him in Indiana. And I love this fit for him. So I'm going to take Ben Morrison there at number 13 to Indianapolis. At number 14, we got the San Francisco 49ers. Really hard team to draft for. I think offensive line is quietly in need for them. But I think we might address that later. I think you got to go on the defensive line for this team. They really don't have a number two. I talked about it in the power rankings the other day. You look at this team, their defense just feels very predictable. Fred Warner's doing incredible things. Nick Bosa is playing well. Hargrave goes down. You don't really have the number two. Leonard Floyd is very inconsistent as a pass rusher. He's a fine number two, number three, but I just don't trust him. I'm going to take Abdul Carter. I think Abdul Carter is kind of coming into his own the last couple of weeks. Really explosive, a guy that started his collegiate career at linebacker, is converted to edge. You've heard the story a million times, but he's been really, really good for this Penn State team the last couple of weeks. He's got really good explosiveness, and this would be a home run pickup for the 49ers that I do think edge rusher is a need for them. I'm going to take him here at number 14. At number 15, it's the New York Giants, and I kind of have been impressed with Daniel Jones the last 2 weeks. I'm not taking a quarterback here. I know a lot of people think, yes, they're going to go quarterback, but this team's been scrappy, and Daniel Jones has played pretty well up to this point in the season. I'm not really going to do anything about that right now. I think next year is the last year of his contract anyways. You'll probably have a better quarterback class. Maybe you take a flyer on day 2, but at least at number 15, I'm going to take another secondary player, and it's going to be Malachi Starks. I know they drafted Tyler Nubin in the second round last year, but I do think they still could use some help in the safety department. The beautiful thing about Malachi Starks, though, I don't think he's limited to playing just safety at the NFL level. You could put him in the slot. You could play him in the box. You can really move him around anywhere. This is a Giants defense that's been pretty good this year. Tay Banks finally coming into his own. I think the receiving core looks pretty solid. Darius Slayton, Malik Neighbors. I don't really love any of the receivers here. So I'm going to go with Malachi Starks. I think he is the best, maybe the best defensive back period in this draft class outside of Will Johnson. Really high on Malachi Starks. I think he goes at 15 to the Giants. At number 16, we got the Philadelphia Eagles, another team that I think needs to look into drafting. a defensive end. They really don't have any explosiveness off the edge. Bryce Huff has been a pretty disappointing player for them this year. You lost Hassan Reddick. You have Brandon Graham's getting up there in age. Yeah, there's some concerns with this Eagles defense, and I'm going to just kind of bet on upside right now. We're going to take Mykel Williams out of Georgia. Really, really good athlete. 6'5", 265 pounds. Incredible arm length. First step off the line of scrimmage is scary good. There's a lot of really, really impressive traits with Mykel Williams that I don't think you can really deny. There's an Eagles team that they've drafted these traitsy Georgia defenders in the past, and it's worked out for him. Jalen Carter is playing well. You've gotten pretty good production from Jordan Davis when he's been on the field. I think Mykel Williams, similar to Trayvon Walker, is just a freak athlete that's going to go high, and I got him going at 16. At number 17, we got the Chicago Bears. Now, I know some Bears fans are telling me should probably go with an edge rusher here, but outside of Princely Umanmielen, who they've got at number 41 here, I don't really love any of the edge talent here. They do have 2 second-round picks, though, and I do think the value there is much better on edge. So we are going to go with an offensive lineman. It's going to be Emory Jones. I've talked about this on pretty much every mock draft we've done up to this point. I think Emory Jones is one of the most interesting prospects in this draft class for the simple fact you can play him at tackle, you can play him at guard. He's a really good athlete who's got experience playing guard at LSU. I kind of want to put him at guard at the NFL level. Nate Davis has been pretty disappointing. Yes, this team needs a center pretty badly. I don't really love the center class up front, at least. I like Parker Brailsford. Maybe that's another guy you take later. Maybe you move Emory Jones to the left tackle spot. They just have a lot of options with Emory Jones, and I think that's exactly what they need. They need a guy that gives them some flexibility on the defensive line, or on the offensive line, excuse me. And I think Emory Jones is the answer there. At number 18, the Green Bay Packers, I think they need to go secondary. You look at this team, you could go into your defensive line if you wanted to. Kenny Clark has been very disappointing. You got guys like Kenneth Grant, Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon, who I think are all kind of in that mix. Tyleik Williams is there as well. I'm going to go corner, though. It seems like the injury to the ACL of Savon Ravel is kind of being overlooked. I know a lot of people are still taking him pretty high. I will take him high because, I love Savon Ravel. I think he is probably my favorite player in this draft class, regardless of position. Not saying he's the best player, but he does everything unbelievably well at the cornerback position. He's got size. He's got really good zone feel. Really, really, really good tackler as a corner. He plays pretty much everywhere on the defensive line. He does it really, really well. It's kind of exactly what Green Bay needs. Pair him alongside Jair Alexander. I love that fit for Green Bay. I'm going to take Savon Ravel at number 18. At number 19, we got the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm going to go receiver. No receiver has come off the board in the first 19 picks. I'm going to take Tetairoa McMillan. It's not that I don't think McMillan's a great player. I'm really high on McMillan right now. I feel like I'm higher on him than quite a few people. He's got really good size. He can win the 50-50 balls. Might not be the most incredible route runner in the world, but he's got reliable hands, great after the catch, really good athlete at his size. There's not a lot to really dislike about Tetairoa McMillan. And for a Chargers team, I still think they're searching for a wide receiver one. They drafted Ladd McConkey relatively high in the second round. People wanted them to take a wide receiver then. They didn't. I think McMillan is the best receiver in this class. Him and Luther Burden, 1A, 1B. Kind of put him in any order you want. But I think McMillan's a very good prospect, and I'm going to take him at 19. At number 20, we get the Seattle Seahawks. I think they got to address the offensive line issues that they continue to have. The interior is really their big issue at that right guard spot. I just don't really like, outside of Tyler Booker, I just don't know if I like the value on some of these guys. I'm going to take Ariante Ursary out of Minnesota. I do think he can play both sides of the line for you. He's been very productive this season for the Gophers. He's got really good length. He's a great pass protector, and he can move in the run game, very similar to Talise Fuaga from last year. Very impressive player. I've been really he's moved up my board quite a bit this year. I've got him at number 20. At number 21, the Pittsburgh Steelers are desperately lacking in terms of wide receiver talent. Luther Burden is my wide receiver 1. It feels like he's going to go later than he should, and it kind of feels similar to how we looked at Jordan Addison a couple of years ago. Addison was right up there as my wide receiver 1 that whole cycle, because what couldn't he do on the football field? He could run routes. He had yard after catch upside. He had good hands. That's kind of how I feel about Luther Burden. I'm really, really high on him. I've got him going at number 21. Then we're going to have another receiver come off the board here. The Broncos are just lacking really any sort of big play upside from their receiver room. Cortland Sutton's reliable. Troy Franklin is dropping deep passes. I mean, there's just a lot of issues there in the receiving room. I'm going to go with Isaiah Bond, probably the fastest receiver in this draft class. And it's a Broncos team that needs speed on this receiving room. And I do think Isaiah Bond gives you that. You pair him alongside Cortland Sutton, who you could look at as more of a possession receiver, but I'm really, really a big fan of Isaiah Bond. He's moved up my board as well. We're going to have him go at number 22. Number 23, Dallas finally was able to develop some sort of a run game. I'm just not betting on Rico Dowdle to be the long-term answer. Ashton Jeanty is separating himself from the rest of the pack as by far the best running back in this group. He's having an unbelievable season, just truly unbelievable. He can catch out of the backfield. His broken tackles every single week, it just blows your mind. He is one of the best. I take it back. He's probably the best college running back I've ever seen. I saw Saquon. I saw Bijan. Ashton Jeanty is better than those guys. I think he probably should be a top 10 pick. Positional value pushed him down the board, but I think Jeanty is that good, that much of a difference maker. We're going to take him at 23. At number 24, I feel like the Bucs pass rush is a bit inconsistent. Yaya Diaby's been good. Vita Vea has been solid as well. But I do think you could make a really solid addition in this 3-4 scheme that they run. I really love Princely Umanmielen out of Ole Miss. The bend, the explosiveness, the hand usage, the run defense. He does a lot of really good stuff for you. And he fits the scheme pretty perfectly if you are a Tampa Bay fan. So I really like what he brings to the table. I'm taking him at 24, and he's going to be an awesome addition next to Yaya Diaby as my pass rush duo of the future. I know you drafted Chris Braswell, but I don't think he's really stopping you from taking Umanmielen in the first round. At 25, we got the Buffalo Bills. I am going to go with a edge rusher. I think it's quietly a need for Buffalo, and I'm a little bit lower on the Ohio State guys. Ashton Gelati is the guy I'm going to take here out of Louisville. Really love his power profile. I think he fits kind of what Buffalo wants to do on the defensive front. Von Miller goes down. Greg Rousseau's had a solid season, but you still need some more depth. I think he's the perfect 4-3 defensive end prototype for what Sean McDermott's defense loves to run. And I really like what he's done. Had another really productive season, was very good for Louisville last year, flew under the radar, came back to school, and he's had another awesome season. I'm going to take him at 25. At number 26, we got the Baltimore Ravens. I love this pick for them. I'm going to take Jonah Savainaya out of Arizona, a guy that brings you a lot of versatility. A lot of people think he's going to play guard at the NFL level. That's perfect for Baltimore. If you wanted to play guard, I think he steps in, is immediately your right guard of the future. If you wanted to play right tackle, I think he can do that as well. He can also play left guard. It's a Ravens team that just has a lot of holes on the offensive line. I think Savainaya gives you versatility and upside to kind of patch those holes in the long run. At 27, we got the Atlanta Falcons. There's a lot of pieces that I considered here. Edge is still a need for me, but I just don't really like any of these edge rushers here in round one. I'm not the highest on Jack Sawyer or JT Tuimoloau. I like Landon Jackson. Patrick Payton's going to be a no for me. Donovan Izioraku, he will be making an appearance today. He's just not a first-round prospect. Josiah Stewart, another guy that you could talk yourself into. Mike Green, I really like, but not a guy that I want to take in the first round. I do think cornerback 2 could be the long-term bet for them. So I am going to take Denzel Burke out of Ohio State. Productive, big, physical corner that's got speed to win down the field. Yeah, I think he kind of fits. Great compliment to A.J. Terrell. And I think they just kind of make the secondary better. It's a good edge class in day 2. I think you can kind of take a flyer on one of these other guys. At number 28, we got the Detroit Lions, and I'm going to make the same pick I've made the last couple of weeks. They need another receiver in this room. I don't think there's any question about that. And I do really want to take a guy that has a little bit more physicality while also winning deep. I don't really think you have that. Jameson Williams can win with speed. I think you got the guy that win those 50 balls. I'm going to go to Oxford, and we're going to take Trey Harris out of Ole Miss. I think he's playing himself in a first-round consideration. He's been one of the best, most productive wide receivers in all of college football this year, and he's really improved after the catch, which has been a big development for him. He's been awesome. I'm taking him at 28 for Detroit. At 29, the Washington Commanders. Who would have thought Washington would be at 29 a quarter of the way through the season? I do think corner is still the big need. They've gotten good play from the secondary. I don't think they've gotten elite play. Emmanuel Forbes has just not really seen the field all that much. I'm taking a big physical corner in Tacario Davis. I think this is a home run for Washington. They don't really have that true number one guy. He's got great size, length. I think he probably profiles better in a zone defense, but I think he's an awesome player that brings you a ton of versatility and upside. I'm going to take Tacario Davis at 29. At number 30, we got the Houston Texans. You could really talk me into them going Quinshon Judkins here. I do think running back is a quiet need for Houston. I'm not going to do that, though. I'm going to go with the upfront defensive line. Take Kenneth Grant, really good run defender, but I do like what he brings as a pass rusher. He's shown a couple of pass rush moves to win, get into the backfield, which you like to see from him. And I think he's a really good athlete overall. He can stuff the run, can rush the passer. I'm going to take him at 30. At 31, the Kansas City Chiefs. Another just kind of out there pick, one that I don't know if I picked him in the first round yet. I do really like Derek Harmon out of Oregon. This is a guy that has been primarily a run stuffer at his time at Michigan State, but this year he has really upped his game a level, transferring to Oregon, and the pass rush upside and his ability to win with his hands has been a huge development for him. He's really active with his hands. He makes some really good moves in terms of just kind of countering offensive linemen. He's got solid athleticism. He's a good run stopper. He's been productive. I think he's playing himself into a borderline first-round pick. And then another guy that I've been very high on even coming into the year, it's Walter Nolan from Ole Miss. I've said a number of times, I think Walter Nolan might be the best athlete I've ever studied, regardless of position. I think he's that good of an athlete. And he's had a really good week against South Carolina. He's productive, good pass rusher, can play off the edge a little bit. I mean, this guy's really freaky. Minnesota just doesn't have a lot of answers on the front of their defensive line. I'm going to take him at 32. And now we enter the second round. So we're going to get to talk about some players we've talked about, others that I'm really excited to kind of do a little bit more of a deep dive into. So let's kind of get into this right away. Cincinnati at 33. We talked about them needing another cornerback. I just don't really love the cornerback room. And I'm going to take Jahdae Barron out of Texas, another guy that is playing himself up to a borderline first rounder for me. He's got the size. He's got the versatility, played some safety, played in the slot last year. They moved him to the boundary. He's been pretty productive everywhere he has played. And I'm really high on Jahdae Barron. I'm going to take him at 33. Hope that he could be that number one corner for you there at Cincinnati. At 34, the Cleveland Browns desperately need to address this offensive line. The offensive line has been a major concern for them. And yeah, there's a few guys you could talk yourself into. Josh Simmons, we're going to be calling his name very soon. He's had a very good season for Ohio State. Josh Connerly's solid. Anthony Belton's a player that I like. Cameron Williams, we'll talk about him in a little bit, but the guy I'm going to go with is Wyatt Millam out of West Virginia. Another one of my guys in this class. I was pretty high on Zach Frazier last year. I just love the way these West Virginia offensive linemen play. They're big, they're physical, they're nasty in the run game. I kind of think that's what this Browns team has been lacking. They're lacking an identity up front. And I think Wyatt Millam is the perfect player for that offensive line. At 35, an absolute miracle if you're Carolina. You were praying one of these quarterbacks would fall, and Quinn Ewers has fallen to you, and I am going to take him here at 35. Ewers is a really tough study because he does some things that you absolutely love, and he's gotten better each year, but the guy just can't stay healthy. He's not been able to play a full season at all in his collegiate career. His deep ball accuracy, while better, still inconsistent. He's not the greatest athlete, but I think in the second round, it's a great flyer pick here if you're Carolina. He gives you some potential to be the long-term quarterback, but you also don't have this first-round pedigree where you kind of have to play him right away. I really like Quinn Ewers at this spot. I'm still on the fence on if I'd take him in the first round. I think the first four quarterbacks, and then there is a gap there to Ewers. But here at 35, I love the pick. At 36, we've got the Jacksonville Jaguars. A common sentiment I get from Jaguars fans is how bad the safety room is. And when you watch them on Sundays, it shows. The safety room is an absolute mess. So we're going to go take who I think is the second best safety in this draft class, and that's going to be Penn State's Kevin Winston Jr. Can play everywhere on the defensive line. While he's not the most athletic player in the world, he's one of the most sound tacklers. He does have really good coverage upside, and overall just not a lot of negative things to say when it comes to Kevin Winston. Got a prospect spotlight coming on him later this week, so stay tuned for that one. But I love this fit for Jacksonville, who needs to upgrade in that secondary. I think there's a home run. At number 37, we got the Chicago Bears. I'm going to go with an edge rusher here. I think this is kind of where you could see a run on edge rushers. And I am going to take Landon Jackson out of Arkansas. Another guy that had a really, really good game against a good Tennessee offensive line. He's a really good athlete, 6'5", 280. I think he's a very scheme-versatile prospect. Could play in a 3-4, could play in a 4-3. He's got some pass rush upside. I think he's a solid run defender as well. Haven't really done a ton of tape dive into him this year, but last year's tape I thought was really impressive. I thought he would have been a day 2 pick in last year's class. I think that sentiment holds true. He's a borderline first rounder. I think I got a first, second round grade on him, but I love this fit for him here at number 37. At number 38, we do have the New England Patriots. And we talked about Josh Simmons. We're going to take him here. Josh Simmons has gotten a lot better. I do still see some inconsistencies in terms of footwork and balance, but his hand usage in pass protection has been really good. He had a good season last year for Ohio State, and this year he's taken his game up another step. A player that very quickly could be playing himself into first-round consideration. Really good tackle prospect. I like him here at number 38. At number 39, Tennessee's a tough team to draft for, it seems like every year. Who knows if they'll have DeAndre Hopkins for the long run, but I am probably going to take, man, this is tough. You could talk me into going with the tackle here. I might be going off the board here a little bit than what I did. I think I am going to go with a tackle. I'm going to take Cameron Williams, and I have a really tough time with Cameron Williams. And here's what I'll say. Cameron Williams is a really good athlete. I like what I've seen from him athletically. First year as a starter for Texas, he's played really well. I just do not understand the people that are so quick to throw him as the number 1 pick in this class. I've seen him go as high in mock drafts as number 2. Why? The sample size is not big. He's shown a lot of inconsistencies in terms of anchors, very up and down. He got beat to his outside shoulder quite a few times in that Michigan game. Yes, he's a good athlete, but he hasn't played up to a first-round pick up to this point. Now, in the second round, I kind of like it. I think the athletic tools you can't deny. I think it's a good fit here, but I'm not in love with it. I'm going to take him here at 39. Just kind of give my answers on where I stand with Cameron Williams. I do think he's a second-round prospect, but I think he's quickly becoming one of the more overrated players in the entire draft class. At number 40, we got the New York Jets. I think they're looking for a pass rusher up front. And you could go receiver. I don't hate that idea at all. Emeka Egbuka, I think, is a pretty great fit for this offense, in all honesty. Colston Loveland is as well. The tight end room is a big concern. I'm actually going to go off the board again this one. I'm going to take Colston Loveland, the best tight end in this class by a mile, in my opinion. you kind of need some more stability in that tight end room. And I think Loveland, great receiving tight end. He's a good blocker as well. I think he provides you some really good upside, and I'm going to take him here at 40. At number 41, we got the Arizona Cardinals. I'm probably going to double dip on the defensive line. You got an interior guy. You got Darius Robinson. I'm going to just take a big flyer on a player that I really love in Donovan Iziraku out of Boston College. A guy that just popped off the screen to me when I was watching the Florida State game in week 1. And he has been unbelievable this year for Boston College. There's really no way around it. Tackling machine, really, really good pass rusher. He's shown a number of pass rush moves. Admittedly, not a player I've done like a full deep dive study into, but really like what I have seen from him, and I'm going to take him here at 41. At number 42, we do have the Las Vegas Raiders. A couple of ways you could go for them. I think running back, though, is where I want to take. Quinshon Judkins, I think, is the second best running back in this class by a lot. Great vision, really explosive. I think he might have more speed than an Ashton Genty. I don't think he's as productive as Genty, but obviously not. Genty's on Barry Sanders level right now. Judkins is a very, very good running back, can catch out of the backfield. It's better than once you got in Zamir White and Alexander Madison. So I'm going to take him here at 42. At number 43, it's a Saints team that I'm going to take an interior offensive lineman. Cesar Ruiz, Eric McCoy, they've been good. You can't really trust a lot of these guys to stay healthy. I'm going to take Tyler Booker. I actually love this pick for them because I think if you wanted him to, Booker could swing out and play tackle if you needed him to. He's done it in his career. While it's not, I don't think it's one of his strengths, I do think it's something that he could do at the next level if you needed him to. And yeah, I like this fit for New Orleans. Powerful, big pass blocker who's got a nasty level in the run game as well. Big fan of Tyler Booker. At 44, my Indianapolis Colts here. Couple of ways I'm considering going. I think edge rusher could be in play yet again. I know you took Laiatu Latu, but they got pieces that are just injured right now. I'm going to go linebacker. I think this linebacker room has quietly been terrible for them. And I like Jalen Walker as a guy that you can use as a blitzer, a good run defender. Now, just for the love of God, don't let Gus Bradley get his hands on him because he's never going to play him to his strengths. But Jalen Walker's played like the best linebacker in this draft class. It's a position that's not highly drafted most of the time. I think there's a really good value to take a flyer on one of these linebackers, and I think the Colts take the first linebacker off the board. At number 45, we got the San Francisco 49ers. Tough team to draft for, as we've talked about a few times. Think we do probably look on the offensive line yet again. It's a tough team to draft for right now, in all honesty. There's some good tackles down the board. I like Trey Zune, Riley Mahlman quite a bit. J.C. Davis is one of my guys in the draft class. I think he's being severely underrated here. I'm struggling here to kind of find – there's a player I'm looking for that I'm not going to take quite yet, but there's some really good players down the board here. I think we're going to take a corner. I think that's where I want to go. Or maybe we look on the interior. Let's take a closer look here at the interior of their offensive line. I like Luke Kandra. I like Jake Slaughter. I like Weston Franklin. Where I'm wondering if he's even on this board anywhere. There's a tough one to draft for, but I think corner is kind of the safest pick for you here. You've gotten good play from some of your guys, but I'm going to just take a flyer on a guy like Maxwell Hairston. Really good zone coverage corner. He's got good athleticism, but it doesn't really show up in man coverage like you'd necessarily like to see. But I do like what he's shown. Good ball skills. Baits the quarterback well in zone. I'm going to take him here at 45. At 46, the New York Giants, I am going to take Garrett Nussmeier. I think the value is too good to pass up on right now. If you are a Giants fan, he's got great hands, or not great hands. Wow. He's got really good arm talent. He's got really good accuracy. He's got good poise in the pocket as well. Another guy that, like, you could start him week 1 next year, but I don't think you're married to the idea of him being your long-term starter like you are with a first-round pick. So similar to the Quinn Ewers situation, I'm going to take a flyer here on Garrett Nussmeier to the Giants. At 47, I think maybe the best steal of the draft up to this point is Tyleik Williams falling to Miami. He can defend the run. He can rush the passer from that interior, and I think he does both at a really good level. So I'm not overthinking it. They need interior pass rush. Tyleik Williams is going to be the answer. At 48, another just insane value. Emeka Egbuka falling to the Eagles at 48. I've talked about this. Egbuka is a top 50 player in this class to me. This receiver class is just not very good. That's kind of where I've landed. I think you get the 3 first-rounders, and then after that, it's kind of a hodgepodge. Trey Harris, I think, is a borderline first-rounder. I had him go there today. Same thing with Emeka Egbuka. Same thing with Alec Iomanner. Those are kind of the guys that I think go high, but I do have a lot of question marks overall with this wide receiver class. I think for a Eagles team that they did give up a pick to go get Jahan Dotson. He's been terrible for them. Emeka Egbuka is a great zone killer, great slot receiver. I think he fits this team really well. Going to take him here at 48. At 49, we have the Green Bay Packers. Got to go interior defensive line. A few names that come to mind. Dante Corleone, Riley Mills is a player that I really like. LT Overton, haven't done a full study on, so I'm not going to draft him today. I'm going to take TJ Sanders, though, out of South Carolina. Came into the year as one of my favorite sleepers in this draft class because he had good size, really good athleticism, and had good pass rush upside. This is a Packers team that's not really getting anything from their pass rush up front. You're not getting anything from Rashawn Gary, Lucas Van Ness, nor Kenny Clark. TJ Sanders is having a very productive season early for the Gamecocks, and I think it's a great fit for Green Bay and what they want to do on that defensive line. So I'm going to take TJ Sanders at 49. At number 50, we've got the Chicago Bears, their 3rd pick of the draft. Another one that I could see going a number of different ways. I'm not opposed to the idea of taking a wide receiver just because of the long-term of Keenan Allen. I don't know how much I love that. I also am not opposed to going running back because you look at this running back room. I don't really love a lot of the guys there. I don't love DeAndre Swift. Roschon Johnson's been fine, but I think that's a room I feel pretty good about. I'm going to take a safety. Even though I like Jaquan Brisker, I like Kevin Byard, I think a guy like Nick Emanwari is a guy that you feel really good about. You can play him in the box. You can play him like high. He can kind of sit. He's a really young player, can kind of sit in the wings for a couple years. The guy's just a freak athlete. I mean, does a lot really well. I don't think he's got the greatest long speed in the world, but man, Nick Emanwari is a very fun player. Got a prospect spotlight on him also coming this weekend, so be sure to stay tuned for that one. At 51, the LA Chargers got to go interior defensive line. It's going to be Dante Corleone for me. I love this guy. Just glad that he's healthy. There was the scare there with the blood clots, but ended up coming back. He's had a really solid season up front in terms of rushing, and he's a really good run defender. That's kind of his strength, is kind of rushing or being that run defender, that penetrator up front. And I think that's what the Chargers are looking for. I'm going to take him here at 51. At 52, I just don't think there's a team that's got a bigger need right now. Corner could be into play here. I'm not really high on the Virginia Tech guys. I'm just not. Jabbar Muhammad. I do really like Jabbar Muhammad. I went a different route with this earlier, but I am going to take Jabbar Muhammad here at 52. He's kind of flying under the radar, and I'm not really sure why. It was awesome for Washington last year. And this year for Oregon, he's not putting up bad numbers by any stretch of the imagination. I think he's having a good season. Probably a slot guy at the next level. He's not the most explosive guy in the world, but he's a really smart, cerebral corner that's got good instincts, can defend the run pretty well. I like Jabbar Muhammad a lot. He's a borderline first-round player to me, so I'm going to take him here at 52. At 53, we got the Denver Broncos. It's not going to be a secondary player. I am going to go edge. I do think they're lacking some size on the edge, maybe a little bit more power. Jack Sawyer is a guy that I'm going to take. I've come around to the idea on Jack Sawyer. He's just not my favorite player in the world. Never been the highest guy on him, even going back to last year. But I like what he could provide to this Broncos defense. He's pretty explosive. He's got good bend, can just long arm offensive linemen. Had a really, really impressive game against Iowa this weekend. I like him better than I like Tui Molowau, but I'm going to take Jack Sawyer here at number 53. At number 54, the Dallas Cowboys. Interior defensive line also could be in play. I'm going to go with the receiver, though. I'm going to take Alec Iomanner for them. I don't think you really have that 50-50 guy, that kind of possession-type receiver. And I think Iomanner is one of the best receivers in this draft class. I think he does do a little bit more than just that possession receiver stereotype. But I'm a big fan of Iomanner, been one of my favorite players in this draft class for a while. I'm going to take him at 54. At 55, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't think they've got a lot of weaknesses, to be completely honest with you. I think tight end is where I am going to lean right now. Tyler Warren's playing great football. Luke Lachey, I never really got. I'm going to take Gunnar Helm out of Texas. Been one of the biggest risers for me in the college football season. A player I didn't have on my board. I think he's a second-round tight end prospect. I think he's a really solid blocker up front. He's got good athleticism, good receiver. Now, you worry about the route running. They kind of use him a lot on these screens, dump-off passes, but I think the upside is certainly there for Gunnar Helm to be a good tight end for a long time. And I'm going to take him at 55 and hope that he's the answer for the Buccaneers tight end problems. At 56, I think the linebacker situation in Seattle is kind of a mess right now. I'm going to take Danny Stutzman out of Oklahoma. One of the best run defenders. I think he's a good blitzer, solid athlete, good in zone coverage. I mean, there's a lot to really like about Danny Stutzman. He's been one of the most productive linebackers in all of college football the last few seasons. I'm not overthinking it. I'm going to take Danny Stutzman here to the Seattle Seahawks. At number 57, the Baltimore Ravens. Give me Torrey Horton. This is kind of the perfect receiver that I just don't think they have. Speed on the outside. He can win deep. And I like Zay Flowers. I don't really think he's the long-term solution there in terms of like your deep ball winners. You've gotten good play this season from Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews. That's been wonderful. Torrey Horton is a very good receiver that I think's being slept on right now. So I'm going to take him here at number 57. At number 58, we've got the Atlanta Falcons back on the clock, and this is where I think edge does make a little bit more sense for them. There's a number of ways we could go here. I'm going to go off my board. I'm going to take Josiah Stewart out of Michigan. This guy was a player that I was pretty low on coming into the year. I just didn't get the hype. He's been every bit as good as advertised for the Michigan Wolverines this year. Explosive player with really good athleticism, showing the pass rush moves to get into the backfield. I think he's a second-round player right now. I think he's playing excellent football, and I'm going to take him here at 58. At 59, the Bills are missing that two-safety system that they've had in place for years up to this point. And I think they need to go back to it. Xavier Wampa is a player that I do really, really like, but I'm actually going to go with Keon Sabb out of Alabama. Transfer from Michigan's played very well in limited instances. He's got great ball skills, good tackler in the open field, and the production's just been very good for Alabama the last couple of seasons. I think he brings you a lot of upside in the secondary. And I think that duo of him and Cole Bishop for the future is very nice. So I'm going to take a safety here at number 59. At number 60, we got the Detroit Lions. You can go secondary. I think given the JT Tuimoloau slide, I'll take a flyer on him here. The power profile is there. The consistency is not. You see some instances where this guy looks like a home run hitter and he's going to be a problem at the NFL level. But more often than not, it feels like we're not getting that from him. Not really sure what the consistency issues are, but he's got to get it cleaned up if he's going to be a successful player in the league. I think this is good value for him, though. I'm going to take him here at 60 to the Lions. At 61, we have the Houston Texans, and given the running back slide, I'm taking Omarion Hampton, a player that is kind of moving up my board. I wasn't the highest on him coming into the year. I'm still not the highest on him, but the contact balance, the broken tackles, there's just certain things that he does at the running back position that you can't really deny. He's got good, solid vision. I just worry about his burst in the open field. But for a Texans team that's been pretty decimated on the ground, I think this is a really good value pick for you. So I'm going to take him here at 61. At 62, we got the Washington Commanders on the clock. A couple of ways you could go here. I think this team is kind of lacking some speed maybe in this receiving room. So give me Evan Stewart from Oregon, a guy that's, he's a bit undersized, but I do really like what he brings. I think he plays bigger than his size is listed. Good route runner, really explosive speed in the open field. I'm a huge fan of what he provides. I'm going to take him here at 62. At 63, we're going to go off the board here. I mentioned there was a player I was looking for earlier. He's not on here, unfortunately. So we're going to go and just take a guy. We'll just take him. But this is going to be left tackle out of Rutgers, and that's going to be Mr. Holland Pierce. This guy he's been one of the highest graded tackles per PFF, and the tape backs it up. He's got incredible hands. He's a stone wall. I mean, you just couldn't move the guy in pass protection. I mean, people were really struggling to move him, and he's been awesome for Rutgers this year. I think he brings you some upside as a run blocker as well. As a Rutgers team that's had a good run game the last few years, but I'm a huge fan of Holland Pierce. I think he's a second-round player. I've got him going to the Chiefs at 63. And then at 64, we are going to go with the receiver here to the Buffalo Bills. And it's not going to be one of these really highly rated receivers. No, he's number 201. It's Jalen Royals from Utah State. Maybe the most underrated overall receiver in this draft class. He's a great route runner, really reliable hands, coming off one of his best collegiate performances against Boise State this past weekend. There's a lot to like about Jalen Royals, and that's going to do it for this mock draft. So some very interesting stuff. No trades in this one. I'm very curious you guys think about this 2-round mock. Which picks do you like? Which picks do you hate? Who am I too high on? Who should I have drafted that ended up slipping out of my board? Did I miss any players? Would love to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comment section below. Leave a like, subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.